Welcome to Cafecito y Calidad. I'm your host, Elizabeth Sanchez, licensed marriage and family therapist and certified coffee enthusiast. Whether we're catching up with friends, studying for a big exam, or grounding with a little caffeinated cozy goodness, coffee brings us together, it powers us up, and it gives us a reason to sit down and connect. Each week, I'll be sitting down with an inspiring entrepreneur to discuss their journey towards building successful businesses and the mental wellness tools they use to alleviate burnout. But first, let's take a sip of something warm and comforting, shall we? You all probably know by now, I'm a first-generation Latina entrepreneur who is a big supporter of women-owned businesses. This is why finding El Cielito was such a special discovery for me. This online coffee company is led by the inspiring, warm-hearted, and hilarious social media star Daniel Oliveras, and they specialize in crafting delicious roasts using coffee beans from women-owned farms in Latin America. So why not try something new and support a great cause? Order from El Cielito Online Coffee Company today. Welcome to Cafecito y Calidad. I'm your host, Elizabeth Sanchez, licensed marriage and family therapist. On today's episode, joining us today is my good friend Juan Carlos from the Modern Macho. He's working on combating machismo in our community. So welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Buenos dias.
Buenos dias.
So we recently did an Instagram live. I asked you this question. I'm going to have to ask it again before we get into all this deep stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. On Cafecito en Calidad, we talk about really great topics, high quality conversation over cafecito. How do you take your coffee?
Well, my answer hasn't changed. If anybody listened to that live, I'm not a huge coffee guy. For me, it's just straight coffee with like 3 creamers. The sweeter, the better.
You got a
Just
sweet tooth.
yeah, I think I mentioned it in the live too. My grandma used to drink a lot of coffee, and it was always the Folgers, just straight black coffee, and the smell was amazing. So it's very nostalgic, thinking about that. But then like I tried it, and I'm just like, I just can't do it. Can't do it. So shout out to all my not hardcore coffee drinkers out there. I got love for
Coffee
y'all.
enthusiast
Yeah,
over here.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So you have a similar story to myself. My abuelita loved her Folgers,
Okay.
instant coffee, a little bit of creamer. That was it.
That was it.
Yeah, and that's where it
Man.
all started here.
And maybe later. I think we talked about this too. Like the when water, I didn't know that water could taste so differently, and then I realized that there's bad water out there. So
Yeah.
maybe I'll end up getting a palate for coffee later, but
Yeah.
we're definitely not there in our journey right now.
You have your cafecito, right?
Yeah, I did. Thank you. Appreciate the mug too, and shout out to
Oh,
the whole team, man. I appreciate you guys putting all this together. You guys are amazing.
no, thank you for having us, taking the time to, talk about such an important topic. We're going to be talking about fatherhood. You're really doing a lot for our community and trying to break those multi-generational cycles of machismo. So I guess as we get started with this conversation, can you let us know first of all, what led you to want to, break a lot of these barriers in our community?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So, Juan Carlos, I'm 30 years old. I'm a single father to an 8-year-old boy, Julian, who's literally my world. I think he's for sure actually he's a big part of this. Um, we've talked about this before. As I mentioned, I'm not a therapist. I'm not a professional. I'm a construction worker. I'm in the electrical union, IBW. I've been doing that for the last 10 years now. And I went down a very dark road, everything from the drinking to the drugs. But I always showed up to work. I always showed up to work, and I made some damn good money doing it. And so through that, I think I was going through a lot of confusion because I was being a man. I was being a man. I was making money.
Let's pause there. Can you define what being a man
Oh, I
is?
love that, and I love that. You
Yeah, let's
asked that,
pause that.
right? So in my world, in my head, in my eyes, what a man was a man that could provide, and that just meant financially.
Mm.
Literally, I was a wallet, right? And I was supposed to be able to protect, and weighing a buck 40, that was kind of hard for me to do. So it's like I was never going to be a man, um, and so I started making the money. I focused on that, and granted, being from the construction industry, there's a lot of banter. I have very thick skin. Like I can talk some smack, right? So my thing is like I can handle that. I'm not quote unquote soft, right? And here I am getting drunk. I'm still showing up to work. I'm sometimes even walking and puking from the nights before, right? And so doing these things that I'm like, I'm supposed to be feeling like I'm more of a man, right? Like I should be loved, which is really what I was saying, right? And yet I'm making the money. I look behind me. My son's mom is gone, right? My kid's no longer in my life, and I'm ready to go. And I'm thinking this doesn't make sense. I'm doing the things I was supposed to, and then being told, by ex-partners, hey, you should go to therapy. And being not acknowledging that there was so much privilege behind what I'm about to say, which was, why should I go to therapy when I have you?
Wow.
Why?
Let's stay with that. Like, how did that feel just to even just bring it up right now? Because that's a pretty big statement.
I I mean, it's tough, and honestly, I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you because you're providing a space enough for me to feel safe
Mm.
enough to say that. Because it's hard to admit that. It's hard to acknowledge that I was in a place where some of the stuff that I was saying was just like, brother, what are we, what do we really mean? Um, and so yeah, I think acknowledging that is like, damn, that's me. That's me. I said those things. I've thought like this. I've processed these things this way. And furthermore, it's all I've known.
Mm.
It's all I've known. And I think I tried to justify that I was doing better than the way that I was brought up
Mm.
and the men that I saw in my life. So it was okay. I'm not hitting women or I'm not cussing her out. So for me to cheat, for me to not listen to my partner, like, it's okay. We're doing better. I'm doing better. It's okay. Like, I don't need to be so hard on myself. I am creating quote unquote change.
So that's what you grew up. That's what was modeled to you growing up of
That's
what
what
a
was modeled.
man is supposed to or what a man does.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so in my head, I'm just doing something different. This is change. This is powerful. This is good. Um, but the reality is that I was trying to figure out how to navigate a life where I was just numb. Because when I thought about my son's mom, when I thought about relationships that I had then in the future, when I thought about the relationship that I was having with my child, I couldn't, right? Because I never processed my own emotions. I didn't know how to feel stuff. And I was very good at that, really good at it, actually. But now I'm supposed to have empathy for my child. Now I'm supposed to, listen to my partner, to my friends, to my family. And how the heck will I ever do that if I don't practice that with myself? And I didn't know how, and so finally starting that journey of therapy and realizing, and so going back to your original question of why, I think, first of all, the fact that I didn't kill myself was a huge thing. I think, being that I think it's 70 to 80% of suicides are male. The tough guy thing isn't working. It's just not. Like, as much as I try to justify it, we need to change something up. And so what I've also been learning over the years is that I'm doing a lot more than I really have to. And I was draining myself trying to give 150%, realizing that if I just give 100 efficiently, I could do a lot more. Where, if my son comes home and says, hey, I had a hard day, instead of me feeling like, how do I fix this? How do I change this? How do I buy him something? How do I solve? It's like, dude, if you literally just sit down for 20 seconds and just validate that he had a bad day, job's done.
Yeah, but I think that's, we typically see this, especially in our men and our Latin community, is like acts of service,
Mm,
like doing and being that provider.
yeah. And I think even it brings up a good point, which I think also takes away from me even ever having an opportunity to realize that I get to choose how I want to be loved. Because for me growing up, and I think, culturally, we've talked about this too, um, my parents showed me love by buying me stuff, right? And so, if now that I think about it, it's like I never had an opportunity to actually say, hey, I want you to say nice things to me. Hey, I want a hug. That's what I want. I didn't get it. It was more like, oh, they're giving me this. This is how I associate love. So if somebody is buying me something, that means they care, right? Then I turned into a teenager though, and I'm like, wait, but that's not what I really want. I just tell me I'm awesome, or like just spend 10 minutes with me. I don't care that you're buying me all this expensive stuff. Um, but it's tough, and there's obviously a lot of layers to that. As a first generation myself, it was like my parents were grinding. They were struggling, and it's all they knew. And so, of course, my dad was taking a lot of pride in the fact that he worked and grinded, was doing his thing. And so, his way of being able to show me love, to this day, we still talk about this. And my dad still very much feels that he's entitled to love me how he wants to and not how I want him to.
I can definitely relate to that. My parents are also, I'm also first gen. Parents immigrated from Mexico. And same, I think that one of the ways they both showed me how they loved me was by giving me gifts or
Mhm.
just providing, right, my basic needs. And as I've been in therapy and I've done my own work, I've noticed that I actually really do love quality time and words of affirmation.
Mm.
But as a child, how do you share that with your parents? Like, mom, like I don't need that gift today,
Yeah,
right? Like,
yeah,
I just want you to watch this movie with me and just hang out with me. But similar to your experience, my parents were always working.
yeah,
They're entrepreneurs, just trying to make a living for us, right?
yeah.
And I don't know, I would hear it often. Like, I didn't also want to feel like I was ungrateful for what they were doing.
That brings up a great point, and that's what I wanted to touch on too. Was I think one thing I want to be very clear about that was also very uncomfortable was that therapy and reflection and really focusing on my past was never about finding reasons to blame anybody else. It was to get to the core of why I am the way that I am. And that was such an uncomfortable part where I had to really look at my parents subjectively and acknowledge like they messed up, right? And not to the point of it's your fault, I can't do anything about it anymore, because I get to make those decisions. I get to heal, right? Like I have control over that. Um but to sit back and acknowledge like, you know what? Yeah, my mom should not have been hitting me all the damn time.
And, Juan Carlos, I think that leads into like talking about the phases of grief. That I think that
Mhm.
there's also um, us needing to grieve that. So it's not like we're blaming our parents, but we're acknowledging that there are wounds, right? And in the phases of grief, we have anger, sadness, denial, bargaining, and acceptance. We kind of have to process all those
Yeah.
until we get to that, like, okay, I can empathize maybe with what my parents went through, but we also need to give ourselves that opportunity to feel those. And I totally relate, right? Like I
Yeah.
felt so angry for a very long time. And I don't know if you can relate to
Oh,
that.
absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's why, as I mentioned, like recently talking to my dad, where he still feels like he is entitled to love others how he wants to. I also felt very grateful to be in a point in my life where it's like I didn't take that personally. I had no resentment toward him. And if anything, I felt like I was in a point in my life where I had more the tools,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I think a lot of times we think of like, how do I want to help my parents? Well, I just want to be able to buy them a nice house and give them all of that, which I'm not saying I don't, right? But it's like I also have other tools that can also help us live our day-to-day lives. And so, and being able to now ask my dad, like, well, when do you feel understood? When do you feel like someone listens to you? And my
So,
dad was like, nunca, like never. And I'm like, Dad, so how the heck, like, no wonder you don't feel like you can have empathy and love others how they want to be loved, because nobody's ever loved you how you want to be loved.
so not only are you trying to change our community and the way we view, men and masculinity, but you're also doing a lot of work in your relationship with your own father.
Yeah. And, I'd like to think that similar to how I parent now is really trying to model. Um, Through the healing, I realized that a lot of what I picked up is not what was said, but what I was seeing
Mm.
and the impact of that. Um, and so I think I carry that with me with the way in that I try to raise my son and that I try to live my life. Because, sitting here all day and being like, go to therapy, go to therapy, go to therapy. And of course, I want to have that door open for any man that goes out there. But I also understand if it's not something they want to do, who am I to tell them? Right. And if anything, for me, it's more about sharing my story, being vulnerable, being honest, be like, this is still hard. I still have my demons. They still exist. I'm not erasing anything in my life. If anything, I'm getting to know these parts of me so I can give them love at the right times and not let them show up where they don't need to, you know? because that's been very eye-opening. I fell into this cycle, going into the man cycle of like, well, I'm done with relationships. I'm done. I'm just gonna mess around, have my fun, and I mean, all of it, right? Anything from just having conversations to sending out pictures to having people over. I and then it took a couple cycles of me realizing like this isn't fulfilling, and I'm not present. And I shared this with my therapist a couple years ago. The fucked up part about that is that I vividly remember having intimacy with someone where I was fighting myself, thinking like, "You're not even in this, bro." But the crazy part about it is that instead of me now knowing like, well, then set your boundaries. Listen to your intuition. If you don't want to do this, love yourself and respect yourself enough to say, hey, I'm gonna remove myself, or like, hey, maybe we shouldn't. Instead, I literally, Liz, was telling myself, like, you need to stop being a bitch. Start being a man and enjoy this. You need to do this. And so I was conflicted between who I really wanted to be and who I was supposed to like being and just be, right? Like this whole staying present thing, but also being so insecure, being so hurt, not knowing where to run, not finding any resources, not realizing that there are more men that are going through this, that like I wasn't resonating with anyone. So therefore it was like, this is my life. I accept this.
And I think that's the neat thing about what you're doing with our with the men in our community is that you have built that community for yourself. You want to share a little bit about, like, I think you're even doing that book club, right? No, it's
Yeah,
happy
yeah.
hour.
So yeah, it's funny, yeah. So we have our the happy hours we're not doing right now, but we had these happy hours, these social hours, right? Which was our men's circle. And so one of the things, like, so when I first went to therapy, Liz, like I showed up the first time, and this was the second time around now, because the first time, I'll be honest, I also went because I was just trying to save my relationship. And so looking back now, I was like, it was never gonna work. It was never gonna work because I wasn't doing it for the right reasons,
You were more motivated to keep her
Oh yeah, I
around.
didn't want her to leave, right? Like I didn't want her to leave. So she's
So I'm
like,
gonna
go to
do
therapy.
this.
So I'm like, hey, I went, come through. You know what I mean? That's really where I was at. But in all reality, it was like I was just going to go, right? Like, and so the second time around I was on my own already, and I was catching up to these cycles. I literally showed up. I don't remember how I got home. It was bad. It was one of those nights where then that's when it hit me like, dude, you're gonna end up dying. We need to do something. So I called my therapist, and
So you hit a real low then
oh man,
before you took that
absolutely.
step.
Absolutely. I actually shout out to Justin Baldoni, because he has a TED Talk that I was literally in my work truck, and I'm like, I think I typed like, what is a man? I'm like, what the fuck is that? Like I need to fulfill being in this box so I can start living my damn life. Like I'm ready to just be myself and to be happy and to live. Like I'm not happy fulfilling all these roles. And granted, I'm saying it this way now, but in that moment, I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, bruh, And so, anyway, I find this TED Talk, and here's this guy who is like picture perfect, like all toned out. The dude's all buff, right? And facial hair, he's got a beard, all this stuff. And he basically goes on there and he says, like, I play all these roles as an actor where I'm having to be this manly man, but that ain't me. And so then that really fucked with me, because in my head, I'm like, dude, I'm trying to live my life to look like you so I can start being happy and I can start, being accepted and loved. And you're telling me you're going through the same thing?
So physically, you look the part.
Yeah. I'm like, brother, you're there. What are you complaining about? So then that's when it really raised that question. So of course I started looking into like trying to find a therapist. First therapist I find, and she's like, hey, Carlos, well, let's talk about this. Like, how do you feel from 1 to 10? And I'm like, nah, we're not doing this.
Don't give me the
Like,
scale stuff.
heck no, like this is way too corny.
Relatable,
No,
nothing.
I was like, nah, can't do this. Not doing it. So, it took a minute, but I think the best way that I put it for myself at that time was like similar to like when I go buy clothes, where I don't just go in there and get the first t-shirt that I find and I'm like, oh, that's the one. I have to try it out. And I think I also understood that it was like, stop making excuses, Carlos. Right? Because again, similar to the shopping, if you're going in there for jeans, I've been in there for like an hour sometimes trying to find some damn clothes, right? Like until you find the right one.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like, okay, if you decide not to come back, that's cool, but just be honest with yourself, Carlos, that you don't want to go. Just just keep it real with yourself, right? Like,
It seems like that was the first time maybe that
yeah,
you were 100 with yourself.
absolutely, absolutely. Where I think there was a lot more accountability now, where I was really starting to acknowledge, like, we don't have to do these things. It's okay. You don't. But Carlos, I just need you to start understanding that you're making these choices, that you are deciding to not seek help. You are deciding not to put yourself in a better place. You are deciding not to get uncomfortable with things that are good for you. That's it. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. Just acknowledge that. And so I think through that, it really put things into perspective of like, this is kind of dope because that means I can get myself out of this, right? That if I'm having shitty days, if I'm in these bad positions, that if I feel like I'm being taken advantage by other people, I'm kind of choosing to do these things. What can I be doing differently to learn to set boundaries? And more importantly, what the fuck is that? Because growing up, nobody showed me any of these things. So that's when therapy was very, very eye opening, where I'm like, and I think I mentioned when I finally found my therapist, one of the things I had discussed with a therapist before was I was like, what I'm starting to realize is I don't feel safe talking about like things with my family. And so she's like, well, why? Like, have they ever told you this? And I'm like, nah, technically they haven't, but we talk a lot of shit on the weekends. And I think I'm starting to realize that somehow that's kind of building a foundation of what our love is built around, which again, I do the banter too. So I get it. But I was like, but I feel like that's literally what our friendships and our family values are built around. And I'm starting to realize that I don't feel comfortable telling them how I feel. And so
Juan Carlos, can you share a little bit? Because I think at this point you're already working with your therapist, right?
no,
Oh no, this is
no,
okay. This
no.
is
So
still
this
the
is
first
no,
one.
because this is
First one.
actually the second one. So this is when I tell her this. And so then she's like, okay, but like why? And so she just keeps asking and asking and asking. And I'm like, I don't think she fucking gets it, dude. Like, I don't think she gets it. Then I met my third therapist, right? Who, shout out to her, man. She's amazing. And so I told her, I said, look, dude, I'm realizing that I can't. And she laughs and she's like, oh, and she puts her head down. You know how much comfort I felt with that? Because I was like, she gets it. She just saved me like 3 months of sessions because, and I realize now the cultural awareness, which was so important, right? But in that moment, I'm not thinking about all that shit. I'm just thinking about I need a place to express myself. And I did. It felt so amazing where I was like, I don't have to explain myself to you. You get what I mean by whatever it is that I'm processing, even with my kindergarten vocabulary that I still have. I'm like, you get it. You can help me put these pieces together.
So it's like the first time you really also not only were practicing like that self-awareness, but what was important to you, like what you're like,
Yeah.
yeah. So a lot of things came up for you just by looking for a therapist, meeting with these therapists.
Sure, sure. I became a father very young. I found out I was going to be a dad at 20, and wasn't planned, wasn't prepared. And that was part of the reason why that conversation came up was because, my dad, amazing man, and he's taught me a lot. And one of the things that my dad is very good at is the banter. So growing up, I got to hear a lot of like, oh man, once these dudes have kids, their life is over. Or you know what, they fucked up because now they have a kid. And it was weird because growing up, I'm like, whether I celebrate it or not, I'm like, I see a lot of parents that are young that are really good. I see a lot of parents that are not young that are really good. I see that some that could use some help, but like they're everywhere, right? Like it's not just a pool of like you're young, you automatically suck. You're like, man, we don't know these things. There's a lot of assumptions there. And so I grew up with a man, which is kind of crazy too, because here I am as a kid listening to my dad talk smack about other kids and their families, right? Like I didn't think about what that does for me as a child, right? Like putting myself in those shoes now. And so I told my therapist, I'm like, my dad has always said like, los que tienen hijos a esa edad, pendejos, right? And so I hear this, and I told my therapist, and I'm like, now I'm that pendejo.
You internalized that belief.
And now how am I supposed to feel safe to go to my dad and say, Dad, like, I know I'm a step up. I know you've taught me accountability. I know that. But like, I'm scared.
I need help.
I need help, bro. Like, this is a lot. And I don't need you to fix it for me. Trust me. I don't need you to fix it. But like, I just need like some support through this. And I didn't feel that. I didn't feel that. And I carry that a lot because then I think about now as a father for my son, right, where I could very easily constantly tell Julian, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me? Which I think is a very valid frustration. But going through what I went through and just learning what I've learned, more importantly, because everyone's story is different, also being able to understand, what am I doing as a dad that's not making my child feel safe enough to tell me?
Yeah.
That I shouldn't have to tell him, hey, tell me how you feel. Hey, you can tell me. Hey, you can tell me. And for him to know, like, if he's feeling something, he's going to show up and express it to me, you know? Um, yeah, it's the journey's a
Yeah.
trip.
It is. It is because, we've talked about this. I have a 2-year-old, and I see myself needing to model that to my parents now, specifically to my
Yes.
mom. Like, you hear often, like, no llores, and I have a little boy, and I have to constantly like redirect, or, hey, mom, can we say it in this way? Like, it's okay for him to cry. Can you
Yeah.
maybe check in and see, ¿qué necesitas? Or, he can't really talk, but hey, like, just start giving him that language. But that's been the biggest thing. Like, I'm probably, it'll, I've seen a different side. Let's go into that direction. Like, I've seen a different side of my parents. Um, I see, and I think you posted something about this on your social media, but it's like, I see, um, like, my inner child is like super happy because my parents are like the most loving
Mm.
parents to my son, and it's like, where was that
Yeah.
when I
Yes.
was little? And I'm like, and then they'll get mad at me if I like do something, and it's like something minor.
Like you call him out for
Oh
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm like, no, to my son, and they're like, don't do that. Like, he's
Right.
little, and I'm like, and in my mind, I'm like, do I have to talk about what I went through
The worst,
when
the
I was
worst,
little?
the worst is when like you call him out and you're like, you used to do this. Yo no te hice eso,
¿Qué
or I
estás
never did
hablando?
that.
Gaslighting.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, my
Gas.
therapist told me there's a word to what you're doing to me
It's
right now.
called gaslighting, mom. I'm just saying. So I've
Yes.
had to like really step back. And my husband and I talk about this all the time because he sees it in his parents. Same thing. Like,
Wow.
¿dónde está la suera? Hace frío. Like, and I'm like, mom.
Like, yeah, and you know what? And that's like, because it brings up something important too, which is also being able to embrace that, like, give yourself that time, even for me to feel that resentment and to feel that anger,
Yeah.
but also
Yeah.
like how dope that they're
Yeah.
acknowledging to be
Yeah.
like, I don't want to take, I also, and I know you're not, but like also that pickle between, I'm allowed to be fucking frustrated because now all of a sudden you want to be loving,
Oh,
but also like, this is good. I'm not gonna
no,
stop my
I know.
kid from
And I'm like,
receiving the
I
love.
love, and I'm like, I love that you're doing this for
Yeah,
him.
right,
He's
right.
lucky. But come
Yeah.
on. Really? Like,
No, why don't you hit him atop the head? Come on. Like,
I
oh, you
know.
want to use words? Oh, that's cute.
Let's go there.
Yeah,
Let's go.
yeah, yeah.
He's like, don't say that. And I'm like, are you serious? Like, I have a list of things,
Oh man, you're
man. And,
absolutely
and so I
right.
think that's been part of my healing journey, is that my inner child is healing through the relationship my son has with my
Dude,
parents.
that's huge.
100%.
That's
Cause
huge.
yeah, cause even with my dad, I don't have like the closest relationship. But let me tell you, he grabs my son and like they're outside just chilling. Like, I never really did. It's
Damn.
like, and he gets mad when I say, when like I say
Yeah,
even.
right.
So it's like I'm seeing like a different side of them, and it's
Yeah.
yeah.
You know, something that I read recently too was, it was more of a reminder, like, we all get different versions of our parents too. Like, just like we're growing,
Oh
which is
yeah,
so weird for me to think about
yeah.
because I feel that as a kid, I always put my parents on this pedestal of perfection, right? Because they never said sorry, they never apologized. So it's like they're perfect, they're always right. You know what I mean? Like they got this shit down. So I think that's kind of created this idea in my head that they're just the same fucking person for the rest of their lives. And so when I
You bring up
read
a good point with
when I
that.
when I
Yeah,
when I read that, I was like, holy shit. Like, I'm not who I was a year ago. I'm not who I
they
was 5 years
evolve.
ago. Yeah, I'm
What?
like, what? Like, my parents are different. So,
Yeah.
even with raising my, there's three of us. I'm the oldest of the three. So, that's another aspect of it, too, is like this pressure of being the oldest.
I'm the oldest.
Oh, my gosh.
Híjole. We got
Yeah,
it. That's
I'm
like a whole other
telling you.
podcast
Man, yeah.
episode, man.
Stay tuned for episode. Yeah, we got like 5 episodes coming
The
out.
oldest child syndrome.
But yeah, like that was another part of it, too, that was very difficult. And um, my mom was actually deported when I was in high school. And that's another very interesting that was like part of me because I remember being asked when I was like 19, 20. This happened my senior year. So it was right before I turned 18. So someone actually asked me, "Do you miss your mom?" I was like, "Yeah, like I miss her. Like, do you wish she was here?" And I said, "I mean, yes, of course I do. But at the same time, I'm okay." I was like, "I'm 19. I'm grown. You know, if anything," as I remember saying, like, if anything, I feel bad for my brother and sister who are 5 years younger than me. I was like, because they technically still need, my mom present. But like me, I'm 19. Like, I'm a grown ass man. I don't need my mom like that no more.
Going back to masculinity,
Exactly.
machismo, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And so, oh, was I wrong? Was I wrong? And I think I bring that up now because my mom, I'm very blessed and grateful, and I think even just privileged to have these conversations with my mom. Like, she's been doing so much growth, and we have such real conversations that even she said, like, I feel like I'm able to be so much more like to you as a mom by just being myself. And I'm like, believe it or not, mom, you are helping me so much by just being yourself.
You know, I like that you're bringing up this topic because I think that never have I needed my mom more than when I had my son. I think that's when I noticed a shift in my relationship with her. Like I really needed her. Like beforehand, I feel like I was fine. Like, oh yeah, I would turn to her, but I feel like the minute had my son, I'm like, and I even told him like I need you more than I've ever needed you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and I think we've been able to be so much more transparent. And she even went to therapy with me at one point
Oh,
to
wow.
talk about, certain things. But like that shift into motherhood, like just totally took like a whole
Yeah.
complete
Yeah.
shift in our relationship. And it sounds like that's been your case too.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I never really talked about this publicly, right? But one of the things that I carried a lot of guilt for a long time was, so my mom was the both emotionally and physically abusive, like extremely. And so there was a lot of beauty in, not in that, but like my mom also taught me a lot of very good things, right? Like my mom's a hustler, my mom's a grinder, my mom does not hesitate to put herself out there and learn new shit.
Mm-hmm.
And we talk about these things now, like, mom, she carries a lot of guilt where she, says like, I'm sorry for a lot of things. And I'm like, hey, it's okay. I know you did your best. Like, it's okay. Like, do what you need to do. At some point, you need to forgive yourself and acknowledge that, like, you brought a lot of great things to the table. And like, I'm a product of you guys. I wouldn't be like this if it wasn't for you guys. Um, but one of the things that I carried a lot of guilt for was when mom was deported. Um, I remember feeling a weird sense of peace. And even furthermore, thinking like, you're such a piece of shit for feeling that, Carlos. Like, how ungrateful you are that you're like, that you can sleep and breathe right now. And it was something that I think I talked a lot about in therapy, because it was like, you know, I understood it logically. I understood it. But of course, I missed my mom. Of course, I wish that she was here. And of course, I would do what I could to spend time with her, and to go visit her. I got my car stolen like the second time that I went out to TJ to go see her. And I'm just like, fuck.
It's not meant to be.
Yeah. I'm like, man, I'm over here like
Yeah.
scared to drive out here at 18 years old to visit my mom. And then my car gets stolen on the second trip. And so all these things that were happening. And so, I navigated those things for myself, got over that guilt, and really worked on building a better relationship with my mom. And just recently, shout out to my mom, man. Just recently, her and we had a conversation. And dude, she straight up told me, she's like, I realized that. And of course, I talked to her about it. And I was like, we can talk, I can share this, right? She's like, yeah. And so, but she basically said, like, I realize how much more I'm able to do for you here than all the harm I did when I had you next to me. And I was like,
This was when
brother.
she was in Tijuana?
Yeah, yeah. And this was
Wow.
just recently, like within the last 6 months. My mom, I mean, she's been out there for like 10 years now. And that was like, holy shit, you literally just validated what I was struggling with for the last like 5 years, you know? And again, I understand that there was a lot of privilege behind being able to have that. But um, yeah, it was tough. It was tough. I think I told myself that I was okay for a long time. And I had to. Because everything that was being thrown at me, I wanted to protect myself. I wanted to.
It was like your shield.
Yes, absolutely, right? That's how I coped with it, because to sit here and be like, you know what? No, I'm not okay. Plus, Liz, I'm a man. I would never admit that, right? Like, I'm always
God
okay. God,
forbid.
I'm always okay. I'm always good, right? And so that was tough. And I think that's why it was so triggering for me to admit that I wasn't okay, because that's a big part of my identity. A big part of who I've had to grow up to be is also I've had to figure out how to protect myself from things that were out of my control. So to then someone say, no, you're not okay, it's like, how fucking dare you? How dare you? Because I've had to put myself through, well, I had to go through a lot of things that I didn't choose. And so now for you to take that away from what I felt was me doing a good job of protecting myself is like, no.
So you're bringing up a lot of great points, Juan Carlos, around what a man is supposed to be like, right? Or what the expectations of what a man is. So just knowing your story, and now you're kind of really trying to break these cycles
Yeah.
within the community. Like, what backlash or what are the things that have come? And you're smiling. So,
None.
none.
The men are all about it. They love vulnerability. They love talking
They
about this
love it.
stuff.
So
Yeah.
what are some of the things that you have come across that as you've taken on this journey? It's a pretty big
It is.
it's a
So this is a trigger warning, by the way, just because I'm well aware to want to be mindful of verbiage and things like that. But definitely a lot of, this is for bitches. You're soft, or this is for pussies. You're not man enough. You guys, just generation of soft mentality. People that are now emotional, right? Like you're just an emotional man. I receive a lot of that. And to be honest with you, like I'm down for that. Like I get you. I hear you, right? Like I was in your shoes just not that long ago because I saw it the same way you did. And I think that's where the Modern Macho really was started, was because I realized every space that I looked at, I was like, y'all really don't get it though. Like you're in my head, I'm like, you're educated, or you're privileged. You grew up with money. You grew up with this. And I'm like, we're not talking about these things. We're not having these. We're saying, hey, we need to be better with our partners. Hey, we need to do that. Like all that stuff's out there. But like, why aren't we talking about how, we think like my way of being loved is by sending, like getting nudes.
Mm,
And more importantly, how I accepted that. But in all reality, that's not really what I want.
mm,
Because I'm like, I'm over here thinking the woman that I want is the one that's going to give me everything in bed. But I've created a woman for that, and I've created the one that I want to marry, and she does nothing to what this other, like all these boxes that I'm creating, where I'm like, so that's not really the way you want to be loved. You're just accepting it because society has told you that's what your worth is. Your worth is how many pictures you get, how many text messages you get on a Friday night, how much game you have. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with it, man. If you got some riz, use it. Like, I get it. But what I'm getting at is like, your worth isn't based on that.
there's more.
There's so
Much
much more.
more.
And that's something that I'll even admit that I was wrong about, because I think when I created the platform, I was trying to create something for myself and for other men, like to be good men.
Mm,
And it was like a year into the project, and I realized, like, wait, this is wrong too. Because I'm essentially now saying there's this man box of what a man should not be.
mm,
But now we're gonna create a box of what a man should be. I'm still putting us in a fucking box. That's not cool.
wow.
That's not cool to me. That's not cool to all the dudes that I talk to, because I don't know y'all, right? And granted, there's basic values, and we have these core beliefs that I think are essential, right? Like being responsible, respectful, integrity, things like that. But like outside of that, who am I to tell someone else how they should be living their life, right? And honestly, who are they to tell me how to live mine in that way, right? Um, and so I think that's where it really shifted the mindset of like, no, this is really just about being the best version of yourself, whatever the fuck that looks like, right? And getting down to the core of it, because I think a lot of the things that I was doing were they were symptoms. They were symptoms to a much bigger disease, and there's a lot of shame tied to it too, which made it difficult to, like I said, talk about. And that's why, like, as you mentioned, like, why share that? I'm like, well, you're providing this. You guys are providing the space. Like, that's what makes what you guys are doing so powerful.
Well, this is also one of the ways that we're breaking that cycle is by
Absolutely.
having this conversation, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
For other people to see it and to learn from it. You're practicing shame resilience. You're stepping into your shame and you're able to acknowledge it, lean into it, and like see where it's coming from.
Right.
And you're doing that. And that takes a lot of strength,
I
Juan
appreciate
Carlos.
that. I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
That's one of the reasons why I started this podcast. Let's talk about things that, you know, we don't we think about, like our people are thinking about, but Let's actually put it out there so people can
Right.
learn from this.
Yeah. And it's hard to process those things. It's hard to reflect on them when we don't talk about them, you know? And so that's what started the social hours. I didn't want to call them men's circles because men like me weren't going to join them. So we have these social hours and we're like, hey, just bring a drink. Fuck it. Let's start somewhere. Let's just talk. And then that's really all it was going to be, was just the social hours. And then shout out to the OGs, like all the guys that were in there at the beginning. And then we all started talking and realizing like, damn, we're all doing the same things, but shit's whack. Like we don't really care for this. Like this, we know that this isn't sustainable. This isn't real.
So, Juan Carlos, how was that for you? Like from going from being in the construction industry to now in a room full of men who are being vulnerable. Like it's like the complete
It,
opposite,
it was completely different. But you know what was crazy is I felt so much safety, and I think we all did.
which is what we started off our
Yeah,
conversation. It's always something like you've
and
always
that's what it was, and it's because we resonated. And something that I think I was learning too is that as much as you know our women have, they've been the ones that have given us a lot of these great tools and have been the ones that have taught us a lot of this emotional intelligence. However, y'all don't look like us. And I think that's where I started realizing that as much as my mom might have been teaching me some good things, it's just natural. Like as a kid, I looked at my dad. Like this dude looks like me. What is he doing? How is he modeling it? And I understand that some dads haven't been present. And some that have been there have been modeled it in the best ways, right? So all these factors that kind of came into play. So to be in a room with other men who are like, what the fuck are we doing? Right. And not only that, but then also to have conversations about certain things that I'm well aware that maybe the world won't celebrate. But I was like, I get that. That's a fucking big step in the right direction. Outside, don't expect the world to give you flowers for that because we need to do better. But I get it. I get it. Like I understand what you just did, how powerful that is, and how groundbreaking that is for you because it's so different from what you were supposed to be doing. And to be honest with you, I feel like that's very similar to parenting. It's exactly what it is now, like that I see with my child, where it's the victories. It's the victories. Like I look at it as a majority rule, right? We're looking at all these things and trying to understand what is better and where are you putting all your eggs in? Where are most of your eggs going? It's like we're trying to do things in the right direction. And so that fueled me to like, we got to keep doing this. So now we have a book club. We have our book club, and I think more than the book, it's the community. I mean, I'm like, hey, I suck at reading. I'm like, if you want to do an audiobook, we have guys that are like really good at reading. I'm like, to me, it's dope. I'm like, I want to learn. Like, y'all teach me some shit, right? And so it's a nice little circle that we all just kind of get to hang out virtually, and we do that. We were doing pool tournaments for a little while, and what we were doing with the money that we would get, we actually used it, and we sponsored a man and paid for his first two sessions of therapy, which was cool. He was a tradesman, which was, like I said, that's my soft spot. So to be able to help him, and then we did an episode kind of going through that, and it was cool to talk about it from a place where even he was like I appreciate the help, but I ain't trying to do this
still
shit.
pushing back a little bit.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
even I mean, like I said, the episode's out. He even brought up, like at one point, the therapist asking him like, do you want to show up next week? And he's like, I don't even want to fucking be here now. Like, what makes you think I want to come back again? And she's like, okay, that's fine. You don't have to. And him making that call, like, no, I'll be here next week. And it's really interesting what listening does because I feel like it's really allowed me to process a lot of the shit that I say. Because get very defensive about the way that I say things. But then to just be validated and it's like, oh, okay, I hear you. And then I'm like, oh, fuck. Like, I didn't really mean that. I was expecting them to, like, and I think that happens a lot, especially amongst
Yeah.
men, right?
I
Where it's
think
like we're
you shared
challenging
that
each
with
other.
me. I think with one of your therapy sessions, you actually shared that. I think your therapist actually listened and you got so
Oh,
upset.
yeah, man.
Yeah.
So the very first time I actually got really emotional. Yeah. Oh, yes. I cried. And I got really pissed off. And she was like, what's wrong? And I'm like, this is so fucking stupid. Like, this is so stupid. Like, how much of a loser am I that I'm literally paying somebody? Like, I'm paying someone to be my friend. Like, I was so, like, I didn't know how to process what I was feeling because there was so much pain. But it's like anger is what I resort to. Anger, and it's like I'm crying, but I'm mad at the same time, and I'm like, I'm a fucking loser. I'm paying this person to, and it was because I can't remember what we were talking about, and then she brought up like whatever discussion it was. It was like, oh, how are things with Liz? Like, are you still talking? And I was like, in my head, I'm thinking like, I brought that shit up like a month and a half ago. So I was like, wait, what? She's like, yeah, you were telling me about, you were going to be working with this person. I started crying. I just started crying. I had never, like, just thinking about it, like, I had never felt that before. And I think that that's something that's not talked about enough, because I think as men, we're expected to act and behave in a certain way. We're expected to be providers. And I think that those things are beautiful. And what that even means, right? Because I think for me now, provider is someone that can be there financially, spiritually, and emotionally, right? Like, I'm willing to die for my kid, but I could do so much living that I could give him, right? And so all those things that I think really kind of like put things into perspective. And I realized that how am I ever going to be able to learn how to listen, to be patient with my kid, to not yell at my kid, to love him how he wants to be loved, when no one's done that for me? I don't even know what that felt like.
You know, so it's not about my son, but this time is my husband. So my husband has a very similar upbringing to
Mm.
us. And, you know, I've had to model a lot of things to him: vulnerability, boundaries, whatever. So one of the things, it was really, I started crying. He was talking to his sister about something. And I won't get into it, but, some unhealthy relationships there.
Mm.
And so my husband was like, they all kind of, they call him soft now. And he's like, you know what? Like, mom and dad didn't teach us to feel like love the way that we wanted to feel love. He's like, Liz has actually taught me like what true love is. And you guys can talk all you want. And he's like,
Dang.
but I actually know what love is now. And I was
Little
like
pinky
I was
up.
like, and I was like washing the dishes, like, he's listening.
Yes,
And I was like, damn.
yes.
And he's like, yeah. And he's like, I now know. He's like, I was the middle child and I was kind of forgotten. And he's like, she's taught me like that I actually like getting gifts. That's my love language. And she gives me
Mm.
those. And she listens and she takes the time when I'm having a bad day to actually like, hey, how are you?
Yeah.
Or, he loves comics. I actually take the time to talk to him about comics and all this. So he's now like trying to model that to his sisters.
Love that.
Like, hey, this is what like true, authentic
Sure.
love
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I hear him here and there like, well, did you set a boundary with him? Or like, and I'm
Hey,
like, who are you?
I
Like, what?
love that.
So the reason I bring that up is that just kind of going back to what you were saying, like it's interesting when he's actually hearing
The willingness,
the
right? That's
willingness,
fucking dope.
the
I love that.
willingness, and like now he's gonna model that to our little boy, like you said, right? Like my son, I can tell him, and I'm sure it's gonna mean a lot, but he's gonna look to his dad,
Right. Right.
and he's gonna see like what's dad doing. And so I like that he's now finally breaking those cycles that he's had to really like dive in and like, hey, this doesn't feel right anymore, even though my dad treated me like this or he didn't model vulnerability. I need to do that for him.
Yeah, for sure. No,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's huge. It's huge. Like I said, it's a game changer. I want to share a little story. This just happened a couple days ago. Julian actually so I put Julian down, he goes to bed, right? About an hour later, I'm like, I can't remember what I was. I think I was doing some work. I hear like someone was in the bathroom. I kind of freaked out because he really never gets up. So whatever, he wakes up and I'm like, is that you? And I just hear him, it's me. I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. Goes back to bed. Like 20 minutes later, he comes back, right? And so Julian shows up and he's like, Bobby, like freaking out. I'm like, what the heck? 8 years old, right? He's like, I just peed myself. He's like, I just peed myself. And I'm like, dude. So like initially it was kind of like, you fucking kidding me, right? Like that quick half-second thought of like, what the? And then kind of allowed that to just feel for a minute. And then I told him like, hey, okay, like, is your shorts, like your underwear? He's like, no, yeah. So we went and checked the bed. Bed was fine, whatever. And I'm like, all right. I'm like, are you okay? Yeah, I'm okay. I was, do you need a hug? Yeah, cool. Give him his hug. And I'm like, hey, my guy. I got down on a knee, met him at eye level, and I'm like, hey, dude, shit happens. Don't worry about it. Like, you're a mess. Like, okay, do me a favor, just throw it in the washer. Because that's my thing too. Is like I'm big on discipline. So, but discipline, not punishment, discipline. So,
There's a difference.
yes. So my thing was like, all right, he made a mistake. Things need to get done. Cool. Clean your stuff up. That's a very real thing that happens. So I'm like, hey, let's throw it in the laundry. I'm gonna hop in the shower. You got school tomorrow. So he does. I gave him his hug, and then right before bed, he went to bed. I could tell he was still kind of like worried. I was like, "Hey, bro," I was like, "Don't worry about it, Papa. Like, it's okay. I mean, it happened. Like, whatever, you know." And I told him, I said, "Can I tell you a secret?" I said, "I used to pee the bed till I was like 14," and I felt like his eyes lit up because it was like, "What? Like, my dad does stuff like this?" So I was like, "It happens, right?" And that was the moment I had with him. Now I'm also very grateful to have a community of dads, within my own village that we can talk about these things. Because I ended up texting them now processing, and I'll bring this back to what you were saying about healing the inner child because um, I literally sat down and I texted the guys and I told them like, hey, this just happened. I was like, dude, I'm so fucking emotional right now. I said because I'm realizing that I wish I would have had that as a kid because I had to go through consistent beatings for having that. I was trying to figure out how to hide my underwear so my parents would see it. I was figuring out how to hide the sheets that they weren't wet. I was going to school smelling like piss just because I didn't want my parents to find out because I knew that if I showered in the morning, they were going to find something suspicious. And I thought about all those things, and then also very, very grateful to talk to these other men, to talk to my boys who were just like, dog, I was doing that shit up until high school. And I was like, fuck, like, I don't need to take away from my story. I just don't need to drag that out into his life, and to your point, like, it's like, whoa, I just had a moment of healing my own inner child and really just being present for my kid. And we even joked about it too for a little bit after and I'm like, I'm pretty sure half the time why I was doing it is because I was so worried about not doing it. The anxiety I was probably feeling of them consistently getting on me about it. And so I even joked about it the next day with my son. I told him, I was like, hey, just make sure, you know, you don't wet yourself. And he just like laughed and looked at me, came and gave me a hug. But I'm like, that's cool. Like, I love that I can have this relationship with my 8-year-old and that we really know each other and we can have these conversations that are so important, and that um, I just feel like I know that I still miss out on things and I'm still making mistakes as a father. But I can't help but think like I would be missing out on we're missing out on so many great things with our kids because of this. And I don't want us to be to a point where we're being reactive about it when our kids no longer live with us, when we don't have the power. Like I feel like that's why the dynamic changes with our parents too. It's because they don't get to tell us things anymore. We're not under their roof. We're not.
We get our power back.
There's like this willingness now where they're like, well, shit, if you're not willing to listen to your kid, well, guess what? She's just gonna go to her house. She's just gonna go to her husband. She's just gonna go to her partner. Like they don't need you like you felt they needed to. And I think, and I get it. Like I said, I think it's very valid, but I think there's so much more control in terms of the parenting that once we lose that, it changes that. And I'm like, I don't want to wait till he's 19 to try to start building a relationship with my kid. I don't want him to feel like you're 18, you need to get the fuck out. Hopefully he wants to go explore and be like he's confident enough where he's just like, I just want to go do my thing. And he's not like, I want to go to school in Jersey to get the fuck away from my dad. You know what I mean? Like that's really my
which
goal.
is what a lot of us do, right?
Absolutely.
And instead of like our relationship ends at 18, like let's have a lifelong relationship with our parents, right? And I think that's what, you know, as we talk about our episode today, I think that's a big takeaway.
Yeah.
That like it doesn't have to stop at age 18 or whatever. Like let's have a lifelong relationship because we don't stop needing our parents. It just evolves, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's hard to see that because we've had to go through that too. We've had to figure out how to navigate. Like you said, you could have used your mom. I could have used my mom and my dad so much in so many spots. And so I know that I don't want to prepare my kid for the adversity of life by being the adversity anymore. Right? Because I think that was the idea. It's like, I'll make my son tough by me being there. It's like, dude, the fuck? The world's going to eat my kid alive if it wants to. Life's going to do what it wants with it. Like, for me as a father, I want to be available for everything and anything because that's what I'm here for.
Yeah. We want them to look back as they're doing all these different things, right? Taking all these risks. Hey, I have my mom and my dad, you know, to support me. Even if I make a mistake or things don't go the way I wanted them to, they're there.
Yeah.
And because that's the last thing I want my son to do is be fearful to like come to me, hey, mom, I made this mistake or I got this bad grade. Okay, well, let's talk about it. How can, like, do you need more support, right? Like, what can I do to help you?
Yeah, I love that. And because you bring up a good point, again, the discipline. Like, it's not if you tell me how I feel, I'll let you do whatever you want. But it's like realistic, like, hey, I spilled something. I cool, appreciate letting me know. Like, okay, cool, let's clean it up. And even if you have to go back, like I've had to go back and clean so much of the shit because he's so bad at cleaning, right? But I'm like, but he's practicing the habit of understanding. Like you made a mistake, just clean it. You
My
know?
mom's the same. I think it's a Latina mom thing. Like, Liz, los zapatos. Liz, you didn't wash the. I'm like, oh my gosh. And at this point, I'm just like, it is what it is. Like, that's her thing. But yeah,
Yeah.
and like, even like making mistakes, I would cringe because I would know what would come after that, right? Um, So even my husband, I think I dropped paint or something at our apartment once. It was bad. It was on the carpet, and I was
See,
like, "Oh
that's different. That deserves punishment. I'm just
no,
kidding.
no!"
No, I'm
And I
kidding. I'm
was,
kidding.
don't trigger
Yeah.
me.
Hey, I'm gonna forget everything I just said for the last time.
But I was like, "Oh my god!" I was like, "Don't get mad." And he's like, "It's fine. Like whatever. Like I'll help you clean it up." And I was like freaking out because
Yeah.
if I would have done that,
Sure.
oh shit, the
But good for you. I think this is the beauty though, is like part of this healing isn't erasing those things. It's just acknowledging why we
oh
navigate which we
yeah,
do.
yeah,
Even just how weird it is to say nice things to ourselves, but it's so
yeah.
normal to talk. Like
Oh
one of
yeah.
the guys the other day was just saying like, "Oh, dude, like sometimes I've been trying to practice telling myself like, hey, you got this." I'm like, I know it sounds crazy. I'm like, you want to know what's crazier is that if you would have said, "Oh, I'm not enough," that's normal. That's okay. We accept that. But for someone to say, "Oh no, I could totally do this," is like, "Whoa, that guy's fucking crazy."
And you know what we're doing, Juan Carlos, is that I think we often use the word normal as that being okay.
Right. It's
And
acceptable.
it's acceptable, but it's not.
No, no.
No. Gabor Mate, he's one of my favorite like Canadian psychiatrists. He says the myth of normal doesn't just because it's normal
Right.
doesn't mean it's
Yes.
okay. So I think that's also why the work that we're doing is so powerful is that we're really stepping outside of our comfort zone and we're trying to like do the complete opposite.
I mean,
Eh,
question stuff, right? Like
We're
that's where I'm at.
questioning,
Like
yeah.
this could be obviously this is a whole. It could be a whole other conversation. But like, I was even thinking, like, what I think about is like, it's gay to wear a pink shirt, and I grew up with that. Like, I grew up with that, and I believed it heavily. To hug a man was like that's, and then, but what I'm getting at is like, then I really sat down and questioned that. Like, I'm actually very confident in what I like. So I'm like, this don't make no sense. Like, you're telling me if I put on a pink shirt, I'm gonna crave something completely different, or like I'm gonna be.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait,
Yeah.
no. And so yeah, you bring up like a great point, questioning like the discomfort and having to get uncomfortable with literally questioning everything that we've normalized.
That's literally what we're doing, Juan
Yeah,
Carlos. Our generation, I think that's what we're doing, is we're really questioning. Like we're still trying to get parts of our culture, keep some of that culture, because
absolutely,
it's so beautiful.
absolutely.
Our culture is so beautiful, but what are the things that I want to keep, and what are some of the things that no longer serve me? Like
Yeah,
right, and I think that's been my work. Like, how do I embrace being Latina, a first gen? I'm the oldest of, I have a younger brother, but how do I embrace that? While also like there's things that I'm not like
yeah,
I'm I don't serve me and like I'm going to try to do different. And that's been so hard. That's been my own healing journey. Like how do I now parent differently? How am I a different wife? Cuz that's a whole other episode,
sure, sure.
like being like a partner to my husband. And so and just to give us a little bit of kudos, like
Heck yeah, you're right.
we're
A little
doing
bit of flowers.
yeah,
Yeah,
we're doing it. And I'm hoping that we're modeling that for our next generation. Like it doesn't have to be that hard for you just because
yeah.
it was for us.
And to your point, making peace that we're gonna make mistakes. I mean,
But that's part of it.
that's what I'm saying. Like making peace with that because I know that for myself, part of it was too shooting for perfection. I would never get started. Like as a father, I was like, wait. Let me figure this shit out. Let me figure out how to be a fucking amazing dad, and then I'll show up. And then I'm like, brother, he's 4 now. He's not 3. You just missed out on a whole year trying to figure this out. Like, just get in there. Get in there. And that's where I think for me, it goes back to the upbringing where it's like there was no discipline, there was punishment. So I was just afraid to make mistakes because if I spilled water, I didn't associate with like, oh, there's accountability, pick your stuff up. It was you spill water, psh, and I'm like, "Oh, wait, what?
No conversation, no
No. So
nothing. Yeah.
now it's like I'd rather avoid taking risks. I'd rather avoid learning new things. I'd rather avoid, figuring things out and understanding that that's part of the beauty of it is the process of really getting better at something by making mistakes. And so, um, yeah, once I made peace with like I'm still gonna make mistakes as a dad, is like cool. Let's get in there. Let's learn. Let's figure
Mhm.
it out.
Mhm.
And ultimately better ourselves because I feel like I've been able to show up for my village so much more just by showing up for myself. And that felt so selfish to begin with too. Like I want to validate that because especially as a man, it's like you're a family man. Like what do you mean providing for yourself? That's selfish. You don't have time for that. Um, I was wrong. I was wrong.
So, so Juan Carlos, after, as we've talked about these really great topics, this topic of masculinity in the Latin community, um, as we wrap, I wanted to ask you, how was this to have this conversation with a Latina, a female
I
Latina
know.
here, being able to really dive into your past, my past, right? Like, how was this for you?
Um, an honor, a pleasure. Again, I think it's very powerful because it's bridging the gap, and I think that
That's it.
that's the game changer. Because when I first started this, that was the thing is I was like, fuck, I was even scared about even the name, the Modern Macho. I'm like, we're gonna get canceled like the day that we make the Instagram. Um, and so I think getting over my own, having to forgive myself, and then understanding that I'm not celebrating any of this stuff. But if we don't talk about it, we don't get to put ourselves in a place. So I think um, listening, realizing that like even though we've navigated lives different ways because we've been brought up with different like perspectives, but we're it's parallel journeys. Like we both still want to be loved and we both still want to find peace and happiness. And so I think for me this is the game changer. This bridges the gap between understanding like, hey, pointing the fingers towards each other really doesn't help. I think both men and women have contributed to the machismo, right? Which that to me is like, because I think that was my frustration too. Is like, fuck, everyone's pointing the finger at me, but like, then my grandma is like, I don't have to cook. All the women are being told to cook, and I'm like, that was a woman who did that.
What our grandmothers
Yeah, you know
modeled.
what I mean. Like
Yeah.
we're all again that I'm holding myself accountable. I'm not
Mhm.
pushing away from that. But it was like I'm starting to see this picture, and so I think it's also very comforting to know that it's like, cool, we've all been victims of this. We're all on the same page. Like, let's keep doing this shit. Like, let's keep working together to acknowledge that we all kind of fell into this, and we can do better.
How can our guests find you? Like, what platforms? Like, especially if somebody wants to work with you and the book.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So you can find us on Instagram as at the Modern Macho. We're on there. You can find us on YouTube. We also do all of our podcast episodes that we have lately that we've been doing. We've been interviewing a lot of professionals, right, therapists, and just pick their brain, right? Like some of that stuff's intimidating. Some of the verbiage, I'm like, what the heck are y'all talking about? Like I understand, but I don't, right? Like I get what you're saying, but
Teach me.
yeah, I'm like, y'all putting some real words to this. And so find us on YouTube, find us on the website, www.themodernmacho.com. We're on Google, Spotify, any of the major platforms. We have our episodes go out every other Wednesday. And it's just me. Shout out to my best friend Santi. Him and I just having these conversations, to the whole team that helps put together the book club. Everybody behind the emails, my guy Matas, my guy LQ, everyone that is a part of this. A big thank you to them. A big thank you to you guys for again putting this together.
Gracias.
Um,
Gracias.
it's been an honor. I really appreciate it, and I hope that at least one dude out there can resonate and realize like, hey, dude, I don't know your story, but like, you're not alone, man. You're not
Well, I
alone.
think you're already doing it.
Yeah.
Like, take a minute. You're already doing it.
Thank you. Thank you.
You've, I see the work you're doing, and even with your son, you're already doing it.
Yeah.
So, before we get off this episode, what do you have going on and what projects? Just so people can stay tuned.
Yeah. So, well, right now, I think most of the projects, by the time this comes out, might not. But the main thing right now we have is the book club. The book club is going to be the main one that we have right now is Monday nights. We have the book club. If you go on our Instagram, there's a link on there that sends you over to we have a Discord that we chat during the week. And then Monday nights, we meet together once a week and talk about the book. We're currently reading The Atomic Habits by James Clear, which is it's been very eye opening. We wrapped up The Four Agreements before that, which was also another very good book. We do have some plans here coming up for some facilitating programs that I'll be doing, some leadership classes that my guy Santi is going to be putting together as well, and hopefully some meditation workshops coming up.
Wonderful. You'll have to let
It's
us know.
Yeah, I'll definitely keep you
Yeah,
guys posted,
yeah,
and hopefully we
definitely.
get somebody to show up. Be nice.
Wonderful. Once again, thank you so much. It's been an honor to share this space with you, and you'll have to join us again.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me.
Gracias. All right, that's a wrap.